Hi, welcome back. If you're here following a series of videos as we introduce you to different three-dimensional tools in Onshape, we had just finished up showing you how to use the plane tool to create a lot of different planes. I'm going to go ahead and start a new part studio as this one got really messy. So I've renamed this part studio by right-clicking and choosing rename and called it work planes. I'm going to hit the insert new tab button and say create a new part studio. And in this one, I'm going to right click and rename it Revolve. All right. So Revolve is a very powerful and common tool. There's a lot of things in our world that are maybe you can just say cylindrically shaped, kind of loosely say that. They have been turned, they are round in some way. And so the idea of extruding, pushing, or pulling through space is not, it's not going to give us the result that we want. So the Revolve tool is going to take a sketch and it's going to spin it around an axis or a line. So let's go ahead and start a new sketch. It doesn't really matter what plane you use. I'm going to use the front plane, but this video is designed for you to follow along in that you try to do it. So watch a little, hit pause, and then you try to create the same geometry and come back to it. So I'm not going to worry about probably exact dimensions here, but just creating some shapes. So let's start with something as basic as a rectangle. I completed the sketch, accepted it, and I'm going to choose the Revolve tool. So in choosing the Revolve tool, I need to choose a profile. Right now in blue, it says faces and sketch regions to revolve. It's looking for me to choose a face or some closed region. And that stays blue because I could choose more regions. Okay, maybe that's helpful if I go back and add to my sketch real quick, just kind of another region. I'm going to stick with just the basic rectangle and turn the Revolve tool on. So at this point, I could add more or deselect. But eventually, Onshape goes, okay, you're telling me what you want to revolve, but what do you want to revolve around? And that's a needed thing. And so there is a red box highlighting the revolve axis field. And so it's red because it's not filled in and it needs that. So when I'm ready to stop choosing faces or sketch regions, to tell Onshape that I'm going to choose the axis to revolve around, I need to put my mouse on that red box and click on it. It turns blue, and now Onshape knows that the next thing I'm going to click on is to fill in this field. And so this is where I'm going to choose a line as an axis. And what I will get is something that spins around that. Now, if I would have liked to add to this, I can go back and click on this box, and I could choose this other rectangle as well. And it kind of looks like a tiered cake. Actually, just went to a little boy's first birthday today, and so he didn't have a tiered cake, but it makes me think of that. He had a Cookie Monster cake that he dove into. It was really cute. So there it is. Let's go ahead and start a new sketch. I'll use the front plane again. And what if we want this kind of cake shape to have a hole in the middle, and we don't want to have to make a hole later? Well, you do not have to. I'm going to make a line. I'm going to go ahead and make it a construction type. I'm going to make a line that is not one of the edges of my box. And this line is going to be the line that I revolve around. So you do not have to. I didn't want you to think you have to. Like that first one, revolve around an edge of your profile. So if I accept that and choose revolve again, okay, I can choose this rectangle, and then for the revolve axis, I'm going to choose this line that is not one of the edges, and I can spin around it. Now, as it spins around that, it has to maintain every kind of point in this region, has to maintain a consistent distance from the axis of rotation. So the closest points had some distance here, and that will be a common radius, a distance from the center all the way around. So we get kind of a washer or donut shape. Okay. All right. So you can play around with this revolve tool a little bit. What if we wanted to make a perfect sphere? That is a common thing that students sometimes ask. How do I make a sphere? Well, to make a sphere, I'm going to go ahead and make a line first. That line might represent the diameter of my sphere, but I would take a semicircle, exactly half of a circle, which is right here when the center is the midpoint of the two endpoints of the arc. And if we revolve a semicircle 360 degrees around that line, I will get a perfect sphere. So let's turn on revolve, choose the semicircle, click here to say I'm going to select the revolve axis, click that line, and there you go. And you get a sphere. Now, before we accept that one, notice that this says full. If you click that drop down, you can change that from full to one direction or symmetric or two directions. So one direction, it is going to be the profile starting to revolve, starting to move in a circular path right around that axis. And you can specify an exact angle measure. So if you want a very precise degree of rotation to create your part, you've got that ability. One direction is going one way. Now you could flip the direction it goes. So if it didn't know which way to go, you can click this and it'll go the opposite direction. Okay. If you turn on two directions, it will let you go in two different directions and you can specify a different distance. Okay. So a different distance one way, or really kind of, I say distance, but it should be angle measure. So we can specify two different degrees or angle measures. And then you can also turn on symmetric, where it goes in both directions symmetrically. There you go. And I believe that angle measure, yeah, that is the sum of, it's not like 100 this way and 100 that way. It's 100 total. So that would be like 50 in each direction, right? But there you go. So if we wanted a sphere, though, you can leave it on that. So later in the year, we are going to do a project of a train, and it's gonna have a little wheel. And so if you want a preview of what this might look like for that wheel, it's kind of something like this. There's like a rectangular shape and another kind of rectangular shape nested inside it, and there's a semicircle on the end. So if I get this arc to be a semicircle, I'm going to revolve. Oh, and hang on, let me add another line. I'll make it a construction type down here. And this is very similar to the geometry that would create the wheel for our train project later. So I would revolve. I'm going to revolve this space, not that rectangle. That was there to kind of create a subtractive region that I don't want to revolve of the big rectangle. So I want of the big rectangle just this, not that, and then this semicircle on the end. I will then choose the axis over here, and I get this shape that kind of looks like a plate at the gym, like a big 45-pound plate that I lift so easily. And there you go. And then there are things that you could do after revolving that, like turning on the the fillet tool to create an edge treatment to round over. I'll just change that to a smaller radius where you could round over and soften any corners, things like that. So there you go. That is the revolve tool. So feel free to make those exact ones, or challenge yourself to make a couple of your own and just play around with the revolve tool. When you're done, please rename the Part Studio Revolve and have some revolves that you have created as evidence. So if you want to see some more, though, what's something good we could do? Common children's toy is a top. So think of, again, I'm not going to draw everything. I'm going to draw really only half of what I would, because of the revolve. So let me make a line that represents kind of a center line. And now maybe a top. I would need some, just that, like something to grab and spin, kind of like a dowel. I don't know if you guys ever played with tops as a kid, but I did. I feel like they were toys that we came across from time to time. So there you go. And if you ever want to change the geometry, you can go back into that sketch and you can change dimensions, change angles, etc. And there you go. So that kind of looks like what might be a good top, where you spin that and this thing spins around and hopefully stays upright as long as possible. So cool. So just have fun, kind of explore, but hopefully you got the idea that you are only sketching really half of often the shape. Okay, so I know the sketches hide themselves after I've used them, but think of the wheel. I only have this sketch on the right side and it spun all the way around, right? So I'm just doing 1/2 of maybe what you would consider a section view of the part. So let's create a section view right here, right? So when I did this wheel, I only have sketched one side and it spun around. When I did the sphere, I only sketched the semicircle. When I got this little washer or donut, I sketched one rectangle, not two. Okay. When I sketched this, I had one rectangle and another one that was, they had left edges that were aligned. And then I got this symmetrical side here through the revolve. Okay. So there you go. That is the Revolve tool.